Happy Wednesday, y'all. It's my birthday. So this is not only a celebration, this is a birthday celebration. So I'm excited that you're here. I'm way too excited, y'all. Bringing the energy tonight, right? I'm Shameika Rhymes. And again, as I said, welcome to Soulbration. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how your week's been, like what you've been up to. Drop that in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. And yeah, I'm super excited about today. So remember to share this with your network. There may be somebody that needs to hear this. And this topic tonight is for both men and women. So anybody, it doesn't matter what race, it doesn't matter. Anybody can use this information. So also during the show, make sure if you have any questions or thoughts, drop it in the chat. We'll try to get to those. I'm excited about tonight's show because this is going to be an empowering episode, which is for me what I need on my birthday. I don't know about y'all, but we're going to take a look at the complex relationship between body image, self-perception, and mental health. And my special guest is Dr. Lisa Nicole Folden, and she's a Healthy at Every Size ambassador and physical therapist. But as societal pressures and media often, especially social media, it often dictates how we think we should look, right? So many individuals often struggle with body dysmorphia and those unrealistic standards set before us. And so Dr. Folden is going to be here. Hey, Dr. Folden. She's going to be here to help us navigate these challenges. We're going to talk about how to cultivate a healthier, more accepting mindset. And then we're going to talk about body changes because not only could it be because you gained weight or lost weight, it also could be because you have a condition like fibroids, or you could be going through menopause, or there's some surgical something you had and you just don't look the way that you used to look. Or it could be from medication, some sort of illness or an injury. There are lots of life transitions and things that will take your body through it. I mean, let us know like what you've been through in the chat, because Lord knows I've been through a lot. But we're gonna talk about body image, self-acceptance, body dysmorphia. So make sure you stay locked in. And again, drop your questions in the chat. But let me tell you a little bit more about Dr. Lisa, which she is so pleasant, and she's a soror, hey, AKA. She's a North Carolina licensed physical therapist, NASM certified behavior change specialist, and anti-diet health and body image coach. And she owns Healthy Fit Physical Therapy and Wellness Consultants in Charlotte, North Carolina. So make sure you check her out online. So are you ready, Dr. Lisa, to hop into all this great conversation?
Yes, I have been looking forward to this. Very much ready.
Well, I'm gonna check it in the chat first, just a second. We've got a shout out to Chastity in Louisiana, but I'm praying for your safety because apparently there is a hurricane there.
Yeah.
So please be safe. We've got Charlotte, North Carolina. We've got Barbados in the house.
Hey.
I would love to be in Barbados right now.
I was just about to say that. Oh, man.
So, all right. So we're going to hop into this. Let's see here. I didn't almost close my screen, Jesus. But can we start with talking about what exactly is body dysmorphia? Because I don't know about you, but I've heard a couple of celebrities have done interviews. And I'm just going to say Tammy Roman has not been shy about talking about suffering from body dysmorphia, because as people have seen her body change, they've always kind of wondered, and she flat out came out and said she has body dysmorphia. Yeah. But how does that also, in that when you're describing that, how does it differ from regular concerns about body image?
Yeah, so it's almost like on a spectrum, right? So to have like body dysmorphic disorder, that like is diagnosed. So you're working with a mental health therapist, a doctor, and someone has, diagnosed you with that. And what it means is that you just sort of have this unhealthy obsession with your body and primarily focused on its flaws. Sometimes that entails a lot of body checking, comparing yourself. And it's a lot of times these flaws that you're finding and identifying, most people would like not notice or be like, really? You know, so it's it's like almost an altered reality of what you look like. Some people describe it as, you know, seeing their bodies one way when in reality that's not what it looks like. And it can be that extreme as well. But that is the medical diagnosis. That's what you get after, you know, like I said, speaking with or seeing a doctor. But as it relates to most people, a lot of us have some of the symptoms of body dysmorphic disorder just because many of us are hyper focused on what our bodies look like. And so our body image is basically our mental picture and our thoughts and our beliefs about our bodies. So we all have a body image, but when it becomes negative and when it becomes very focused on what we perceive to be imperfections and things that are wrong, that's when it becomes problematic, and it, you know, starts to impact our mental health and our ability to actually live and lead healthy, happy, you know, full lives.
That makes sense because, but I don't know, in my brain, because people that are watching know my brain be all the way over here.
That's okay.
But it made me just, when you were explaining it, it also made me think of sometimes, and I don't know if anybody else does this, but you look in the mirror and you're putting on your clothes and you're like, okay. But then somebody takes a picture of you and you're like, that don't look the same. That does not look like what I saw in the mirror. And so then it's like you start to think, well, let me go check another mirror, somebody else's phone. And it's like there's just all these different views that you have of yourself. And I don't know if I'm just totally off track here.
No. That's a real thing. And I think it plays in the more advanced our cameras have gotten, I think it plays into our obsession with, you know, retaking the photo 15 times and getting the right angle, as you say. When we're getting an image of ourselves from a photo, there are many things to take into consideration. There's lighting, there's position, there's angles, there's, you know, additional factors in the environment. And so you might get dressed at home and think like, okay, she's doing it, and then you go and you're next to other people or you're in different lighting and it's like, oh, that didn't translate the way I wanted it to. That's very normal. It's very common, and I don't think that in and of itself is unhealthy. I think where it becomes a problem is when you obsess over that, and now it becomes important to like take that picture down or retake that photo or not ever wear that outfit again, because now you're saying, oh, something is wrong with me. Something is bad about my body, that it shouldn't be pictured in this lighting or in this outfit or from this direction or from this position. And that's where, you know, it's more of a rumination, and that becomes problematic for us, you know, again, just being healthy and living our lives and enjoying our lives and remembering that, like, this photo is a pictorial representation of some joy or some excitement or some experience versus I need to look exactly perfect like I thought I looked before I left the house. That gets a little fuzzy for us. So.
Right. What are some other common signs that for both men and women that they might be struggling with body dysmorphia? Because as you're saying some things, I'm like, wait a minute now.
So it's really when you find yourself very hypercritical of yourself. You know, I always talk to my clients when I'm coaching them, and it's so funny how much compassion we hold for other people, but we don't always give that back to ourselves. So it's a lot of times when you're like, as opposed to looking in the mirror, maybe just on your way out the door and, you know, just to check for stuff in your eye or stuff in your hair, it turns into like, oh, I don't like my breasts. Oh, I don't like my stomach. Oh, my feet, like all of these things. And when your inner dialogue with yourself becomes really negative, more negative than positive, that's a sign that like maybe some work needs to be done. It doesn't necessarily mean you have body dysmorphia, but it may mean that you need to start cultivating a more positive relationship with your body. It can also look like making a decision, and this is a big one. A lot of us have done it. I've done it for sure. So there's no judgment being passed here. But when we make decisions about what our food is going to look like and or what our movement or exercise is going to look like based on the way our bodies look. And I know mainstream fitness industry, that's kind of what they teach us. It's like, oh, you want to get that summer body, you want to drop those extra pounds, you know. But when we start to utilize food and movement to change and manipulate our body primarily or solely, that is a bit disordered, and that, you know, can lead to eating disorders, which is a big part of body dysmorphia. When you have that diagnosis, because you're hypercritical of your body, you often do extreme things to try to change and make your body look different. So, those are two of the big ones when we start trying to manipulate our bodies, or again, just obsessive thoughts when we can't turn our brain off because we're trying to count calories, or we're trying to, we're fantasizing about what our bodies are going to be one day, or maybe we have cutouts and body goals posted everywhere. Again, things that were supported in a lot of ways by diet and fitness companies, but they're actually very often seen to lead toward disordered behaviors that aren't healthy for you, especially your mental health or your physical health, really.
Well, that brings to mind that we all are on social media. Clearly, we're all on social media, and you see someone that's got this body that you want, or you've got, especially if you're out here in these dating streets, and it's like you see men and women saying this is exactly like, I want a woman or a man that is built like this, and then you start to think like, do I need to look like this? Do I need to go have plastic surgery? So how do you think, like, what are some other cultural and societal pressures that contribute to body dysmorphia and body dissatisfaction overall?
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's social media, it's media, it's magazines, television. We've been sort of conditioned from birth, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think back to your earliest memories of bodies, first of all, children, and I love for my clients to understand this, babies are not born hating their bodies. And they come out with all the fat rolls, the roly-polies, the double chins, and we eat it up. We love it. It's beautiful. And they love themselves and their bodies. No one is born hating their bodies. It happens over time because we're conditioned. So your earliest memories of movies, people in movies, if they are cast as the good person, the heroine or hero, the person that you want to, root for, they are in a thin or straight-sized body. They look a certain way, Eurocentric standards of beauty primarily. And that is what we associate with goodness. And then and I'm talking like Disney movies, so I'm talking about from childhood. And when we see villains and people who are, bad, or the antagonists in the movies or television shows, they are in larger bodies. So we have been naturally conditioned to believe that the bigger the body, the less attractive, the less good, the less smart, the less happy. And so we make these associations when we're small. And so, social media and when we become adults and teenagers even, it's just amplified. It's worse because now we're seeing these very unrealistic standards of beauty. And the reality is, and I'm sure you know this, just being in media, a lot of times people's bodies that we're seeing don't even look like that in real life. Because there's Photoshop, there's so much editing, and then there's, surgical procedures, and I don't knock anyone's choice. I believe in body autonomy. You do whatever you think you need to do for and to your body to feel good about yourself. But, and consider the mental health ramifications around the idea that changing my body physically is going to contribute to my worth and value. Just think about that for a minute, because think of the people you love most in your life. Do you care what size their bodies are, or do you just love them for who they are? Think about our aging mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers. Like, do we look at them and say, oof, they really need to? No, we just love them because what they've contributed to our lives has nothing to do with the size of their bodies. So we're conditioned very early to think that bigger bodies mean less health, less goodness, less kindness, less success, less joy, less happiness. And so we aspire to either be or maintain a thin body. And the problem with that is that's not how genetics work.
Right.
We all have a genetic blueprint. I always tell people you can look at your parents, maybe your aunt, uncle, or grandparents, and get an idea of what your body type is. And there's only so much manipulation outside of plastic surgery, of course, that's different. But there's only so much manipulation you can do with diet and exercise, before it's unhealthy and unrealistic, unreasonable, and unsustainable. So getting people to kind of come back to themselves and make peace with whatever their genetic blueprint is really important. But we see these things every day, and we've been seeing them since we were born. And it's really, really hard to look away from that and start to see that as like not good or unhealthy, because it is the societal norm. So whenever you're going against the grain and the norm, you feel like, Okay.
Right.
Nobody else is on this path, but there are other people who have recognized
Mhm.
the body dissatisfaction that has developed from being immersed into this culture. And so, there are a lot of us doing something about it and
Mhm.
putting a different image out there so that people can start to be more accepting of themselves.
You got me thinking, like, what movies, like, y'all in the chat, let me know what movies that, when you brought that up, all these movies start popping up in my head. Let me know if there's a movie that came to y'all's mind when Dr. Folden just said that about those movies that we saw early on in childhood, how the
Hmm.
villain is always, and I can't think of the one, I can see it in my head, but I cannot think of what that movie is.
I always
But
think about The Little Mermaid and Ursula.
that maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I was
Yep.
like, I can't think of that movie, but yes,
Yep.
yes.
Ursula was the villain, the octopus. She's much larger. Her facial features are larger, which is a
Yep.
whole nother subject. And these are the people and the images depicted as villainous or bad or people you don't
Yeah.
want to be like. So that stuff, it's deep seated and it's deep rooted. And sometimes if it's not brought to your attention, you never think about it. It just is what it is.
Right. And another thing, it just made me think of this, even in as far as entertainment and music industry, if you look back on history, like for example, with Kelly Price, because I've interviewed her before and she talked about, how they didn't want her photo on that album cover. There
No.
are a lot of artists like that because
Hmm.
they were seen as maybe too big. And there was another artist that I spoke with. She was probably a size 10
Yeah.
back in I think it was late 80s, and they told her she was too big. So
Hmm.
with that, thinking of like specific career paths, but
Yeah.
even for example, because I just finished watching the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, and I think I'm one in my head, but that
I
show
get
on
that.
Netflix. But you see how even those girls are struggling because you have to be a specific weight, you
You
have to look
do.
a certain way. So with that being said, how do you take something like that? Just say that is your career path. What that
Yeah.
there the weight or how you look matters.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been told
Yeah.
many times, door slammed in my face because it was, you don't have the right look. Are you
Yeah.
going to lose that weight? Or are you going to gain some weight? It was just always this, you need to be at the specific weight. So
Right.
my question is, how do people handle something like that
Yeah.
when that's your job, that's how you put your food on the table and how you pay the bills? How are they supposed to protect that body image then?
It's so difficult. And I want to say that from this point of, just validating the
Mhm.
feelings around that. Because
Yeah.
I can give you a whole plan, like do this and do that. But the reality is it
Right.
is difficult. Okay.
Mhm.
And, being in an industry where there's a specific look and you are being pressured to assimilate.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I respect everyone's choice to decide, okay, I'm just going to assimilate because I got to put food on my baby's table.
Right.
You have to do what you have to do. In a perfect world,
Mhm.
we would be the rebels, right? We would be like, you know what? I'm not doing it. This
Mhm.
is why. This is important. But you know what? You might lose your job as a result of that. And I don't want to be liable for that. So my advice is sometimes we are put in situations that we don't have the power and control
Mhm.
temporarily, right? That we want. And so sometimes you do play the game, but always do what you can to insulate yourself. So,
Mhm.
you may be in this industry where you're hearing all this negative stuff and, people are saying you need to be this size and you're seeing people get chewed out for not fitting into the costume or the outfit.
Right.
But what you have to do is surround yourself with more positive thoughts. So that's where affirmations come into play.
Mhm.
That's where getting a circle of real people around you who support you and love you as you are and who will pour into you. That's where curating your social media feed so that you see different size bodies doing different types of things, because what we were
Mhm.
conditioned to see was untrue. That's just the reality of it.
Right.
There are people in large and fat bodies who are beautiful, who are
Mhm.
happy, who are successful, who are
Yeah.
healthy, who are any combination of these things and more. And if you in order to believe it, you have to actually see it. So
Mhm.
curate a social media feed where you are seeing these images so that they start to take root in you, and now you know that it's true. And then for me, that starts to build up this sort of confidence in you to where
Mhm.
hopefully you can get to a point where you can bring that into your workplace and figure out how to work inside
Yes.
the ranks and make some changes and make some differences. I've seen, you know, especially in journalism and media, Black women wearing their hair natural for the first time and it being a big deal in 2024.
Right. Right.
It being a big deal,
Yeah.
but it is a big deal. And I never, you know, belittle that process because I know that it is. So making, you know, when you feel comfortable, when you have the support and the information you need to make those strides to say, hey, I'm not assimilating anymore. I'm going to let my body be what my body is, and y'all gonna have to deal with it.
Yes.
and it's uncomfortable, and there are things that you may lose in the process. But to me, to live in your authentic, you know, self and be true and honest to yourself it's more important than what other people think. But again, I say that with all due respect because I understand that's not everybody's story at any given point. Sometimes you do have to play the game and deal with what you deal with. So do what you can to pour into yourself and insulate yourself from all that negativity so that you can start to build a better body image and feel better about yourself on the inside, even though you're hearing all this noise on the outside.
I love that. Everybody in the chat, if you have questions, make sure you drop them in the chat so we can get to those. Well, I'm curious. Can you take us through like a little bit of affirmations, like a few affirmations we could potentially be saying? And should we say them in the mirror? I've heard people say it's more powerful when you look in the mirror and say them.
It is. And I love affirmations. I actually have a whole journal on affirmations.
Oh.
It's called the Body Respect Journal. It's on Amazon and it's an affirmation for 30 days, a different one. And the idea behind, I believe in writing them and then posting them somewhere you can see them and then reading them or saying them aloud. And yes, to yourself or in the mirror is always ideal. Some of my favorite ones center around this idea that like my body is great, but I have more to offer than that. So I like to say, I am so much more than a body. I'm so much more than a body. I always tell people like, this is your meat suit that carries you through the earth. And so you can engage, but when you die, your headstone isn't going to say, oh, she was really thin. She stayed small her whole life. Like, who cares? People that love you don't care. So I'm so much more than a body. One that I really love says, my body tells a story that I'm proud of, you know, and that's specifically speaking to our scars, especially as women, our stretch marks, the things our body keeps an account of the things we've experienced. And it's really a beautiful story. But yeah, more than a body. My body tells a story that I'm very proud of. Another one that I like to say is that my body deserves, or my body requires no apologies or excuses. I think as women, we apologize for our bodies all the time. Like, oh, I put on weight. I'm so, like, who cares? Your body is beautiful and it deserves respect and kindness. So anything that you can think of, you know, I coach people to create their own that makes sense for them. If you're struggling and you have been saying things like, I hate my body, I'm too fat, I'm too this, then just the reverse of that. Or you can even, sometimes affirmations are too affirmational, like they're too positive because you're not there yet. So it doesn't have to be like, I love my body. Some people struggle with that. And we live in a very fat phobic world that makes people feel bad about their body. So you could say something like, I'm struggling to love my body right now, but I am worth the work. You know, I'm worth the work.
I like that.
I'm worth the work because you may not be there. Nobody wakes up there every day, but you can be honest with yourself and still do something, say something positive that gets you thinking in a more positive direction versus negative. So.
Oh, I love that. Someone wanted you to repeat the name of the book so they can go grab it.
Oh, yes. Thank you. So it's called The Body Respect Journal. I think it's behind me. Maybe you can see it back there. It's The Body Respect Journal by me, Dr. Lisa Folden. And it's on Amazon. So it's a pink cover. I didn't see anything else with that name. So I think if you just type Amazon, The Body Respect Journal, it'll pop right up.
Perfect. You guys, let me know what affirmations you've been telling yourself or the ones you're going to tell yourself now. Like I'm excited about these affirmations because I know I struggle with saying them because then I'm like, I don't know, but I'm getting better at it because I've had to pull back off the positiveness that I wasn't there yet. But now as I'm getting there, it's like, okay, now it's getting easier and it's absorbing.
It's absorbing. Yeah. Because sometimes it's toxic positivity, right?
Yeah.
It's, you know, you can say, some people say fake it till you make it. You can say things you don't fully believe if that works for you. And then you build it up. But for some of us, I can't do it. I can't say
Yeah.
this thing because I don't even understand how people feel this way. Okay, well then that's too far for you. So let's back it up.
Right.
And let's say something that makes sense for what you feel now. And some of my best affirmations really are about acknowledging other things, because we can get into a whole nother discussion about the patriarchy and women's bodies for the male gaze and beauty and all that. But I really like, especially for women, to hone in on this idea that my body doesn't define me. My body is just one thing about me. It's not even the most interesting thing about me, So
Yeah.
even leaning away from body and focusing on who you are as a human is a great place to start with your affirmations. And then hopefully, you can get to the body stuff too, to where you do start to have some affection for your body. But you don't ever have to have body positivity. That's one myth I want people to know. You never have to be super body positive. My goal for most of my clients is to be neutral with their bodies, because neutrality requires that you can just be respectful. You can say, you know what, I don't get up in the morning and love what I see in the mirror. My body's been through a lot. I've been told bad things about it for so long. I just can't see a lot of beauty in it. And that's unfortunate, but that's okay to be where you are.
Yeah.
But what you can decide is that even though I'm struggling to see beauty in this body has carried me through a global pandemic. I am still alive. This body perhaps brought a child or two into the world. This body covered me during a sickness or whatever. And I can respect this body and treat it well, because you don't have to be beautiful to be treated with respect. And that's why my journal is the body respect journal and not the body positivity journal, because we don't have to be positive every single day. It's unnatural and unreal.
Wow.
So
That was like a weight lifted, because because you do hear you got to be positive, positive, positive. And someday, like you said, I don't want to be. I don't feel that way. I don't want to be. But I actually, and it happened for me during yoga the other day. It was like this, like light clicked on, and I was like, my body been through some stuff, and I could get into these poses and stay there now. Like, I'm proud of myself.
Absolutely. That's one way to look
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah. Someone has a question, Dr. Carrie Graham. How do you move beyond I want my old body that was thinner and stronger? And I'm guilty of that too sometimes. I want
Yeah.
the old body I had before all this other stuff.
Yep. You know what? That is so normal and so common for us. So two things. Number one, and this may not be true for you, but I want everyone to get honest when we pull up a picture of what we used to look like, high school, college, even if it sounds completely unrealistic. Pull up a picture of yourself, and if that's your new goal, like what you wish you had, I just want you to transport yourself back to that mentality of that young woman or that young man in that photo, and ask yourself a question and be very honest. Did I like my body then when I had it? The vast majority of us, if we're honest, will be like,
Yeah.
So that is your cue.
You're right.
That it's never been about your body. Your body has never been the problem. It's been about your perception of your body. That's it. So if you can look at that old body and make peace with it, then you can do the work to look at your current body and learn how to make peace with that. That's that part of it, right?
I'm like blown away right now. Like,
because
what?
it's the reality. We do that, and I've done it. Like, I did it. I've done it. I've been there. I was never happy with my body. There was never a time. It's not until you gain a little bit more weight and you're like, oh, that would have been good. No, it's not about the weight. It's not about your body. It's about what you think about it. So see if you can change how you feel about your body and solve that problem. The other piece is the only constant is change. Our bodies were meant to change. They are flexible for a reason. And so getting stuck on this idea of like, this is what my body should look like is always a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who have stayed closer to the same size most of their lives, but no human in this world has the exact same body that they had at 18 or 20 or 25 or 30, or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
And so learning to make peace with this idea that my body is supposed to change, that is literally a part of why my body is so adaptable and how it's keeping me alive. It literally adapts to my environment, to the things that have happened to it, to the illnesses we encounter, to pregnancies, to loss, to so many things. And it's really miraculous and it's really beautiful. And the idea that we want to stop that, like freeze, stay like it, it's just silly. We don't stay the same. Our minds don't stay the same. Why would our bodies stay the same?
Yeah, I just saw a couple comments that actually, this is a good point too. Chastity says she would have talking about looking back at an old picture. Were you happy then with your body? And she said, no, because I was going through mental stress and depression. I was small, but it wasn't worth it. She wouldn't want to go back through that. And it's so interesting that if you really think about it, what was your mental space back then? As I'm thinking about all those times when I, was super, super skinny and the comments that I got then, and then I gained weight thinking, okay, now y'all gonna tell me I'm fine. And it wasn't like that, but I was miserable. So then it's just been this tug of war. And I was sharing with Dr. Folden that I went to the extreme of going on a reality show to try to lose weight, to get back to where I used to be.
Right.
And I didn't quite get all the way back there, but I got to a place where I was comfortable and confident, and I felt better about how I looked until fibroids entered the picture, and that's a whole nother story.
But
it brings me to my next question, actually. Yeah. For those that are dealing with when you have, say, fibroids, endometriosis, perimenopause, menopause, or there's some life change like that, and for men it could be just as their testosterone drops or whatever the hormonal issue is, or how do you accept that part of aging? Or that's not even necessarily aging, or that part of like just it being a medical thing.
Yeah, part of life, because we don't maintain this homeostasis forever, right? It would be nice to like get to a place where we're in really great health and everything is looking how it's supposed to look, and then we just stay there. But I just said the only constant is change. So being able to adapt to these changes and to do it gracefully and without this a lot of my clients like feel bad and feel shame, like, oh, I'm going through menopause. Oh, and it's like, honey, we have no control over these things. Like, be easy on yourself. I always tell people, treat yourself and your body and everything you're going through like you would treat your very best friend, or like you would treat the child version of you. Be kind and compassionate to that baby. You wouldn't be yelling at no baby about her, medical problems.
Right. You're right. You're right.
You didn't bring these things on yourself. And even if some of your behaviors played into some of the conditions that you have, you couldn't see the full picture. You didn't know the whole story. You were operating with the knowledge you had, doing the best that you could with what you had. And so just stopping for a minute to just be kinder to ourselves and to just say, like, I know this is difficult and I'm not downplaying how uncomfortable this is, but be nice. Just be nice to you, because you deserve that. And then beyond that, all you can do is what you have access to. So if you are afforded the benefit of having access to good health care, the ability to talk to specialists, to go outside of your insurance network to get additional support, that is wonderful. Do what you can, make the adjustments that you can that make sense for you, that don't involve restriction and crazy diets and whatnot. And then for the rest of it, you have to just learn how to accept and make peace with, this is what my body is battling in this moment, or this is this natural occurrence that my body is going through. As it relates to women's health, it is unfortunate that we live in a country and a world where our issues are not studied enough. We don't have the information and the resources and the support systems in place to care for ourselves more adequately as we go through perimenopause, menopause, deal with fibroids. But the access and the information that we do have, utilizing that as much as we possibly can. And then remembering, when we talk about the picture of health, I don't care what platform I'm on, every time we talk about health, we talk about two things. We talk about what you're eating and how you're moving. They make up maybe 10 to 15% of what our overall health and wellness is. There's this thing called the wellness wheel. You can Google it. There are so many compartments and components of health and wellness that we never address. And anytime we get hyper-focused on what I eat, how much I move, and ignore the mental health, the emotional health, the spiritual health, the relational health, then we are missing out on what true health and wellness looks like. So you might be going through something medical, that's stressful. But what you can't do is hyper focus on that one thing, because there's so much more to you to take care of. So again, you get the information that you can, you make the adjustments that you can that make sense and don't require restriction. And then you pray if you believe in a higher power.
Yeah.
You do what's within your power, and then you go on living and enjoying your life, because stress kills far more than weight gain,
Yeah.
than perimenopause, than fibroids. Stress will kill you before any of those things will. So reel it in and do what you can to speak to, you know, the internal parts of you, the emotional side of you, the spiritual side of you, because when that is regulated, some of these health things simmer down on their own, to be very honest. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
not to
very
dismiss the
true.
health stuff, but still, you know.
That's very true. You guys, if you have any questions, because we're winding down, but I want to make sure we get to your questions because this conversation has been so good. Drop those in the chat. Well, what advice do you have for those? Say they've been put on a medicine. I've been there too, and I'm sure plenty of people have, where your doctor gives you a steroid and your body just changes like that. And you're like, now wait a minute, I'm trying to heal this cough over here or whatever it is. And now because of the steroids, you've blown up or it's caused, what do they call that, moon face or whatever it's called, and now you don't look like you looked a month or two ago. Now how would you suggest dealing with something like that that's maybe temporary?
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing to consider is that you know that it's temporary. So I think there's a level of like, okay, woosah, this is different.
Right.
But that's where the work of really repairing your relationship with your body comes into play. Because when you have a really healthy relationship with your body, you recognize and expect that life is going to come in and things are going to make it change. But it's a part of the process. You know, I hate having to take steroids because, you know, I think they have a lot of side effects in our bodies that we don't want, but sometimes it is a requirement. So sometimes we are weighing what is more important, this medical condition that I have and this effective medication that happens to have a side effect of me bloating or looking larger or bigger temporarily. Guess what? I'm gonna take the medication because overall I want to live and I want to be, you know, somewhere on the healthy spectrum. So I'm going to take what I have to take, and I'm going to hopefully have done the work before, but even during, I'm going to do the work to speak life into myself, to say positive affirmations, to be kind to myself. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to pretend. You know, perhaps there was some healing in telling my story so that people know what's going on and know how I'm feeling, so that if they encounter this later in life, they might, you know, have something to, you know, support them. But it's really just about making peace with knowing that my body is going to change from pregnancy, from medications, from surgical interventions, from changes in my lifestyle, from moving to a different place and being in a different environment, from emotional stressors, from things that are completely outside of my control, from things that are somewhat in my control, and it's okay. And so when you do that, it doesn't mean you're going to look in the mirror and be like, I really, really am so happy that I have this, you know, larger face. No, it might be difficult to see, but when you love and respect the person that you are inside, this matters a little bit less. And so when this is altered, we are kind to ourselves and we are accepting of it. And then especially when we know that it is, you know, probably something that's going to be temporary, we can be a little bit nicer to ourselves and not so judgmental. It doesn't mean the comments from other people or the stares won't be uncomfortable. You know, I'm a clapback queen, so I'm ready, but that doesn't
I love it.
that doesn't mean everyone is. That might not be your thing, and that's fine. But just know that when people, you know, say, I'm more concerned about the internal dialogue, what we think and say about ourselves, but I understand words and comments from other people hurt too. And so I just remind myself and my clients all the time, what someone else says about my body has nothing to do with me, everything to do with them. They probably don't really like themselves and they wouldn't be able to manage if this change happened in their bodies. So this is their way of lashing out. And, you know, that's a them problem and not a me problem.
Ooh, you've been speaking life into us all evening. I'm just curious your thoughts on this because I'm guilty of it. If I know I haven't slept, I'm gonna slap a filter if I got to go on social media for whatever reason. So I'm just curious if using filters on social media, if you think that is kind of indicative of any body image thing, or if it's maybe a sign of something else, or if it just literally is like, oh, I've got bags under my eyes, let me slap this filter on so it
Right.
looks
Yeah.
okay.
I've had these dark circles since I was 10. So, I get it. I don't in in and of itself, I don't see anything wrong, significantly wrong with
Okay.
using filters. I don't think that it says you have a poor body image or you don't like yourself. I do think, and this goes, yeah, you didn't ask this, but this goes for filters. This goes for full face of makeup. This
Mhm.
goes for, hair products or weaves that are not indicative of our natural whatever.
Mhm.
Anything that makes us look different than the way we are, just waking up in the morning.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with engaging with any of those things, including filters, unless your um, your life starts to revolve around that thing. So, for example, I
Okay.
will not go on social media without a filter. Have you lost your mind? Are you crazy? No. I will not ever wear my natural hair. Are you like, I will never leave the house without a full face of makeup. Then
Mhm.
there's something we need
Yeah.
to talk about, or something you need to talk about with a therapist. I am not that type of therapist. So I would say that it's about how much that thing, whatever it
Mhm.
is controlling your engagement in day-to-day life. I don't think there's anything wrong with slapping a filter on. I definitely do it. I would say 3/4 of my videos, there's a filter. And if there's not a filter, there might be makeup, either a light face or a full face. And then I have a handful of videos that's just nothing, literally in the morning,
Yeah.
just took the bonnet off.
Mhm.
So the goal is like recognizing that these filters, the makeup, whatever, is not to make you beautiful or acceptable. I
Mhm.
look at it, I saw somewhere on social media the other day, it was like teaching young girls, like when I put on makeup, it's not, mommy's not
Yeah.
putting on makeup to be beautiful. I'm putting on makeup to be fancy.
Mhm.
I want to be
Right.
fancy today, or I want to really pop out and show, like I want to do like some extra.
I
That's how
love
I
that.
look at it, as opposed to
Yeah.
this idea that this thing is making me beautiful and acceptable, and now I can be okay. So if that's where you're leaning, then yeah, I would say challenge yourself to go without the filters, to go without the makeup, to do the thing. But if it's not something that you feel you're reliant upon, if the
Mhm.
thought of being without it doesn't like make you gasp, you're fine.
Well, I've got two more questions, but
Mhm.
this one, how do you know when you have kind of turned that corner and you have finally accepted your body image? You are just like, I love this body. I mean, I felt this the other day, and I think it was just because it
Yeah.
was just time to just accept, like, okay, I've had a bajillion surgeries, fibroids, and these scars. It's me.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
just
it's part of
they gonna
me.
be here, so I have to accept it. My knees are just gonna be swollen because I don't know how to sit down. But just accepting those things. But
Yeah.
how do you know when you just have turned that corner and you're like, you know what? I love me some me and I love my body.
Yeah. Well, it's just that the good and kind of discouraging thing about this journey is that there is no final destination, right?
Yeah.
Even when we get to that really good place, like I really love my body and respect it, we still have days. We still have days where like that body image ain't hidden and we are just but it doesn't mean that we go back. It's like we're still on a trajectory moving up, but maybe
Mhm.
it's up and down. That's
Yeah.
the story of our
Yeah.
lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I would say the way that you've really turned that corner is when you are comfortable in your skin, in either, I tell a lot of the work my clients do is at home alone in their mirror. I
Mhm.
tell them to get butt naked and take it all in and get comfortable seeing it. Because
Mhm.
when we don't like our bodies, we stop seeing them, we stop looking at them, we stop getting in the pictures, we avoid the mirrors. And
Mhm.
so a part of the work is to normalize your body by seeing it. So one way that you've turned that corner is when the sight of your body doesn't give or bring about a negative thought immediately,
Mhm.
or a negative facial expression or
Mhm.
avoidance. When you can face yourself head on and either smile, smirk, or be like, okay, that's usually when like, oh, I've turned the corner. When you have no issues buying clothes in a bigger size because this one don't fit and I don't care,
Mhm.
that's a good sign
Well,
that
that's a
you've
good
turned a
one.
corner. Yeah, because you're not, oh, I used to be a size 8. No, this 12, oh, that feels comfortable. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
When it doesn't give you that uncomfortable in your chest or your stomach, then like, oh yeah, I'm to the point where I'm making peace. When there's a part of your body you were very self-conscious about and you would never show, and now you showing it. So if you didn't like your stomach, but now it's crop top season and you're doing it, that's a pretty good example that you've turned a corner. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect every day or all the time, but that's a great example that you've learned to accept yourself and that you're taking the external steps to show how you're feeling internally, for sure.
I love that. I love that. So for the last question, I ask everybody this question, but I think I might know your answer. Maybe, maybe. But what feeds your soul?
What doesn't? So I have a lot, life has been lifing. Let me just say that. And so for me, the biggest thing that feeds my soul right now is grounding myself in a routine. And my routine is all about, like, again, we talk about health and we just think about movement and exercise or eating. And for me, it's really about feeding my emotional and spiritual self. So my routine is about prayer, is about meditation. It's about deep stretching. Like I stretch probably 5 days a week. And it's 10 to 15 minutes and I'm listening to meditation music and I'm thinking about my future and I'm praying and I'm just, manifesting, the next part of my life. And so for me, that grounding every day is what feeds my soul and it gets me through all of the randomness that comes after that. And typically after that is a short workout to get my body moving. But it's really, for me, that routine and then that the consistency in relationships. I have probably some of the best friends and close family members ever, and leaning on them and talking to them and connecting with them is another thing that really feeds my soul. So I guess that's two answers: my routine and then friendship and positive relationships, for sure.
I love that. I love that. Someone asked me today, like, what are you doing for your birthday? And I was like, I'm doing what feeds my soul. And it's this show. Because I really
Yes.
just love the everyone in the chat is amazing. And I love, like, I learn something new every week and I just love it so much. And it's helping others. So
Yep.
yeah. So thank you so much for coming on and helping me celebrate my birthday. Thank you,
Yes, happy
everybody in the chat.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Let everybody know where they can find you. In case, do you coach like virtually or would they have to be in Charlotte?
No, so my physical therapy practice is bound by my license. So to have physical therapy with me in person or virtually, you do need to live in North or South Carolina. But my coaching services, I offer health, wellness, body image, and movement coaching. And that is all virtual or in person. I have some local people that come in person, but that's primarily virtual. And you can be anywhere in the world. I see clients in other countries, on other continents. It's beautiful. So yeah, I offer coaching services. So you can find me on my website, it's healthyfit.com, and fit is spelled PHIT. And then that's my social handles. I live on Instagram. I have all of the platforms, but me and Instagram are best friends. So I'm on Instagram at healthyfit. Again, fit is spelled PHIT. But reach out. I'm responsive to DMs. I love working with people. That would be the third thing that feeds my soul, this work that I do, because I'm so passionate about it. So I would love to connect with any of your audience.
And I can testify that she definitely is responsive because I was all in those DMs like, please come on my show.
Happy to.
So thank you again, everybody, for joining. And thank you again, Dr. Lisa. For more information on healthy eating, weight loss, body image, weight gain, all the things around your body and, being positive and affirmations and all the things, head over to blackdoctor.org and check out all the articles over there. And as for me, I'm back next Wednesday, y'all, for a celebration, but Dr. Latasha Murphy is coming back. Y'all may remember, I think it was a couple months ago, we talked about fibroids, but this time she's coming back to talk about endometriosis and polycystic ovary syndrome because it is PCOS Awareness Month. So we're gonna get deep into that because I know there are a lot of people out there that suffer, a lot of women that suffer from that. So get your questions ready and join me next Wednesday for a celebration. But let me know, as always, if there's any topic that you want me to take a look at or try to get somebody on here to talk about it. But again, thank you, Dr. Lisa. And thank you, everybody, for the birthday wishes. And I hope everybody has a soul-filled rest of the week.
Thank you.